How's it going, everybody? Welcome into the channel. My name is Deception, and I talk about the New York Football Giants. Today, we're going to be going over the series finale for Giants offseason Hard Knocks. Not really a whole lot to cover here. This was basically just the draft episode, so it was never really left the draft room really at all for this whole episode. And, I don't mind that. Draft season is probably the most exciting time for Giants fans, unfortunately, for the last couple of years. So anything draft is always super exciting, and this draft in particular was fun to see. We got our number one wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. Seems like that was the player that they wanted. They didn't really show what the room was like in the Giants draft room prior to us making the pick that led to Malik Neighbors. So, there was a lot of speculation. There was a lot of rumors. There was a lot of reports going on that the Giants were actively trying to trade up to number 3 to get Drake May. We didn't see any of that information in this episode, unfortunately. So there's not really a way to say, hey, this was true, this wasn't true. How aggressive were we to try to trade up? So you don't see any of that, which is unfortunate. However, it does seem pretty evident that the Giants were pleased to get Malik Neighbors, and that they were crossing their fingers hoping that Malik Neighbors was going to fall to them at number 6. So it seems like there were some teams like the Colts were trying to trade up to number 6 to I don't know, maybe for Neighbors. I don't even know, but it seemed like they were trying to fleece us pretty bad, because I think they were basically just going to do a pick swap this year and like a second rounder next year, which is, no, I'm not doing that for the number 6 overall pick. And then we even had they showed is it Joe Douglas, something Douglas from the Jets, trying to trade up as well. They didn't tell us what his trade package was, but I'm assuming it was wasn't worth what they were offering. So cool to see the first round, kind of the process of just waiting on the clock, answering phone calls, doing your due diligence, because you never know if the team's going to be desperate, be like, hey, we'll give you a first rounder next year and a second rounder next year, like something like that. And if that's the case, then you have to listen, because like that's how you build a football team, is when you're able to accumulate picks, get a bunch of talented young players on rookie contracts, and just stack a team. So anyway, so the first round was super cool. Seeing Malik Neighbors, seeing trade talks, the kind of the process behind that. Day 2, it starts off, and they're basically, the mission of the day was to get someone in the secondary, but primarily an outside corner. And as Giants fans, we already know in training camp right now, we're kind of scratching our head to see who's going to be the second outside corner opposite Deonte Banks. And that's still an issue today, because we didn't get an outside corner in the draft, because the two people that we had listed was already kind of a long shot that they were going to fall to us anyway, but that would be Kool-Aid McKinstry and Kamari Lassiter, both outside, or rated as outside corners. So when both of those guys were gone, we kind of went to another position in the secondary, that being safety, after losing Xavier McKinney. And we ended up getting Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota, which he was probably my favorite draft pick out of all of them. Just I know highlights and stuff aren't everything, but it would just be so nice to have a ball hawk free safety in our, in the Giants secondary. So really cool to see that. And then, but we did end up getting a corner, Andrew Phillips out of Kentucky in the third round, and they show a little bit of his pre-draft interview process. And I think it's kind of weird, because they're talking about how, and everybody, I feel like a lot of analysts say this, where he's really good against the run, but I never really saw that when I watched his tape. I feel like, he's in the right spot, it seems like, most of the time, but his tackling technique is freaking horrendous. So that's something that definitely needs to be cleaned up. And he's not an outside corner. I know in the draft, they're saying he's got inside out flexibility. He doesn't have the speed to be an outside corner, so he's going to have to play the nickel. So we got a nickel corner in Andrew Phillips. Awesome. Then they, talked a lot about Theo Johnson, who I'm really excited about, because a 6'6" guy that can run as fast as he can. Great receiving threat, decent blocker. He's going to be good to have alongside someone like Daniel Bellinger for the foreseeable future, hopefully for their whole careers. So anyway, yeah, so basically just going through the draft and not really a whole lot of information to gather besides, what some teams were willing to maybe part ways with to trade up to number 6, the goals of going into days 2 and 3, and, showing the drafting of like Tyrone Tracy and, like I said, Theo Johnson, a little bit of rookie minicamp at the end of the episode, just some clips. So really like the series. I don't know if I would want to see the Giants if the Giants do Hard Knocks again. I'm not against Giants doing Hard Knocks, but I wouldn't want to see, this version of Hard Knocks again. Basically, I would love to see like an in-season Hard Knocks. Maybe not even so much the training camp version. I don't know. I just feel like you'd get a lot more information in, being able to see how the locker room is throughout a season, and especially when the Giants haven't really been, getting off to hot starts the last few years. It'd be nice to see kind of how the locker room is, how the coaching staff manages all that. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. That would just be cool to see if they were to ever be on Hard Knocks again. So other than that, there's not really a whole lot left to talk about that episode. So solid series. I really enjoyed it. Anything Giants I'm always down for, or anything football I'm down for. But in other news, let's talk about what's going on in Giants training camp right now. And there have been some developments. I haven't made any videos about like individual days. I've just kind of waited for them to stack up a little bit to kind of have a little bit more to talk about. So biggest thing right now to talk about is how we signed the new guard, and that is what is his name? 1 second. I always forget. I always forget players' names when I'm making these videos because I don't know. I just draw blanks. But okay, Greg Van Roten. So we signed Greg Van Roten, presumably to be the right guard. We're probably going to move John Runyon from right guard to left, his natural position, which I'm totally okay with. Greg Van Roten's going to be playing the right guard, his natural position, and not only that, he's going to be playing next to his former right tackle that he played with in Las Vegas in Jermaine Illuminor. So I'm really liking the way this offensive line is shaping out, and it's kind of sad to say because this configuration doesn't involve Evan Neal. And man, the best ability is availability, and I don't want to worry not only about your play on the field, but whether or not you're even going to be healthy. I understand it's a high investment to draft someone 7th overall, but at the end of the day, if you're not producing and you're not able to perform on the field, be healthy, be present. And that's a weird thing too, is like, even though he's injured and he might be doing, some kind of physical therapy or something inside the facility during practice, but it's just odd that you don't see him really at all. Not with his teammates, kind of sitting by himself. He's either on the bike or you're not even seeing him at all. He's inside. So far, it looks like the offensive line configuration is going to be as follows. So you're going to have Andrew Thomas left tackle. You're going to have John Runyon left guard, John Michael Schmitz as our center, and then Greg Van Roten as our right guard, and Jermaine Illuminor right tackle. Perfect. Leave it like that. Have those guys play their positions. Don't swap them out. Don't rotate them. Don't take the 2 guards, swap them out. Don't have Runyon play center. Or take center snaps. Why do you need to have him play center? You're going to expect us to go through like 3 centers and then have him be like an emergency backup option? It's not worth him taking away snaps at guard, but I digress. So biggest news out of training camp so far is, Evan Neal's not healthy enough to participate, so we have to move Illuminor over. That pushed us to sign Greg Van Roten and then move John Runyon over. It's unfortunate too that JMS is dealing with a shoulder injury. I don't know how serious that is. But hopefully we can get him back in the lineup sooner rather than later, and we can try to gel with the rest of the line. And then, so other than that, it seems like, Daniel Jones having his good days, having his bad days. Seems like one day it's like, he's lightening it up, doing deep balls to Hyatt and Neighbors, and the next day it's like, oh, he sucks. He overthrew this guy. He underthrew this guy. Doesn't have the timing of this or that. He would have been sacked. And it's like, all right, well, one of the things that you can't take production from training camp and expect it to carry over into the regular season. Because how many times do we have like a training camp where, especially last year, let's take last year for example, where when we had Darren Waller, and it looked like, oh man, this offense is literally going to be unstoppable. Like Darren Waller is like a true number one receiving threat. Like year 2 Evan Neal, our offensive line is chilling. We got John Michael. Like everything seemed like it was aligning for that year. Everything looked great, and then look what happened. We laid a goose egg at the very beginning of we tripped at the starting line last year, and that's when we thought that we were going to be awesome going in, because news from training camp was fairly positive. And then kind of reflect that to 2022 when there were videos of like Daniel Jones like throwing a ball out of bounds. And everyone's like, oh, he sucks. We need to get rid of him. But then what did he do that year? He led us to a playoff game and won a playoff road game. So, like, take all of these reports with a grain of salt. Really, the only like actual tangible news that really comes out of training camp is injuries. And so, like, Evan Neal, JMS, Tyler Nubin got injured. I'm not even really sure what happened with him. It seemed like a soft tissue injury, so hopefully it's not going to be a recurring issue, and he's able to get back fairly quickly. Don't rush him back. I mean, if you come back too early with soft tissue related injuries, they're just going to get worse and worse. Just be fully healthy and come back. So, let's see. I don't really know if there's really a whole lot left to talk about besides like the offensive line, arrangement. Let's just take a moment and just appreciate how awesome it is to finally have a number one wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. And I know I just got done saying take reports from camp with a grain of salt, but just, I don't know, man, when you watch him, he just looks different, and his confidence is infectious. So just nice to have someone like that in the locker room, and I'm really excited that he's a New York Giant. Other than that, I'm gonna leave that video there. So if you guys like the content, if you guys are Giants fans or just NFL fans in general, this is a new channel, getting better as we go along. There's probably gonna be more to talk about in the coming weeks, especially with like preseason and stuff going on. So if you're not already, I would encourage you to go down below, hit the subscribe, leave a comment, whether it be positive or negative. I don't really care. If you disagree with me, that's probably more helpful than anybody who does agree with me. So appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.